Good evening, guys. It is Thursday, May 1st, 2025. This Bathrobe business. I'm Georgi Oganov. Got my decaf coffee and I got the news. Mm. So let's jump into it. Right, markets were okay today. Futures are up right now because of this story right now. China is saying that is possibly entering trade negotiations with the United States. Now, this is kind of feeding some hope into the markets. Um, I'm not going to report on this because this is still highly speculative. Previously, CCP has said they're not going to enter any kind of negotiations until the tariffs are removed. The White House said it's not going to remove tariffs until they enter negotiation. So right now, this is more speculation than hard facts, but we'll see what comes in the next coming days. We may get a new news story tomorrow. We may get something over the weekend or at the start of the week that says otherwise. So right now, I think this is just a possibility. So far, there's no evidence for it. So that's all I'm going to say in regards to that story. Now, let's talk a little bit about U.S. manufacturing. So, with this story from Reuters, U.S. manufacturing sector slump deepens in April. So it's the second consecutive month that U.S. manufacturing has slumped. Kind of ironic when you think about tariffs. So, because so many things are purchased abroad, even if you're doing manufacturing domestically here in the United States, your raw goods and individual components still come from abroad. And because those prices have gone up drastically, your profit margins have shrank or you've increased prices, which has caused your sales to shrink. So the Institute for Supply Management has a metric where whenever a number is below 50, that indicates contraction in the market. So currently it's sitting at 48.7, which is below where it was the previous month in March at 49. So we're getting the second consecutive month of contraction. This isn't necessarily a surprise. This is pretty common to what a lot of US manufacturers were saying, that because they get so many things abroad, this is an inevitable result. Ford was saying this from day one, but we'll see what comes in the next couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see if the contraction continues into May as well. Speaking of contractions, both Apple and Amazon reported earnings today. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So let me cover them in aggregate, and then I'll cover them individually. So Apple and Amazon both beat expectations, but not always rosy. So in both scenarios, they're facing major headwinds. Obviously, Apple is facing headwinds with the fact that they manufacture completely abroad. In Amazon sells products that are manufactured almost exclusively abroad. So both of these are facing major headwinds. Now, a couple interesting things. Apple's earnings were good. They are Apple is down in the aftermarket hours simply because of its guidance. So they're saying that they could take about $1 billion haircut this year because of tariffs. It's about 900 million total, but we'll just round up. But what's interesting is um, their earnings per share were $1.65 compared to 163. Total revenue was 95.4 billion compared to 94.6. But what's interesting is where they really lagged were their digital offerings. So this is iCloud, this is the App Store, this is advertising, this is Apple TV. That is their second highest grossing product, that giant umbrella of digital products that are non-tangibles. After the iPhone, they are the second largest, and they are actually lagging and growing at a slower pace. That's where it's interesting because that's a number that should not be affected by tariffs because that's mostly IP and mostly internal software. That is probably going to be Apple's greatest headwind, is what to do with their second biggest money generator when that is lagging. You can try to work around tariffs a little bit. You can move production from China to India as they have done it. You can work on cost cutting measures. But what do you do when your second highest grossing product isn't reaping the kind of benefits that could come even in the face of absence of tariffs? Um, I would say probably, probably the only thing that I would advise would be amping up the Apple TV. They finally have a couple of shows that people are genuinely talking about and excited about. If ever there was a time to invest in digital media, it would be now. However, even that is a bit of a gamble simply because Netflix has become so much more dominant than they were even a year or two ago. This is definitely more of an uphill battle now than it would have been 10 years ago. Netflix just keeps kind of innovating and coming out with more and more of a broad selection. There's a great quote that I love, and I think it's attributed to Joseph Stalin, of all people. But he says, "Quantity is its own quality." And that's the Netflix approach. Netflix has more of everything that anyone could want. They have horror, they have documentaries, they have comedies, they have movies, they have TV shows. No other company has the cross section of movies that Netflix does. Not even major studios like Disney can seem to compete with them. Paramount can't seem to do anything. And Apple TV, while they have a couple hits, don't really seem to be developing much. But I think that's their only real play, because there's only so much you can get from the App Store. There's only so much you can do with advertising, especially in a contracting market. But the only thing that they could really grow their revenue on is getting more subscriptions for Apple TV. And the only way you do that is coming out with better shows, better movies, and more of them. Again, quantity is its own quality. They need a lot of it. Now, Amazon's story is a little bit more complicated. So Amazon obviously had a pretty good quarter. Overall sales were great, but they're getting squeezed by tariffs. Now, where this story gets a little bit more interesting, even though their cloud business has grown, where they saw some of their largest growth was in online advertising. In fact, Amazon has quietly become the third largest online advertiser in the United States, behind Meta and Google. That's not a small thing to say. So this is actually probably going to be one of Amazon's greatest sources of revenue coming into the next quarter and into subsequent quarters, is finding new ways of using advertising strategically in order to bring up their overall sales. Now, this is advertising obviously on the platform, but this could also be advertising just in their digital content. So you go online, you watch a movie on Amazon Prime, they have commercials. That is additional ad revenue. So this is essentially what Apple needs to model, is what Amazon is potentially going to do. And I think the only route that Amazon can take in an environment where they're very much getting squeezed by tariffs. Last story I'm going to cover. This one's really about public sentiment. So McDonald's suffered its worst U.S. sales decline since 2020. Now, some of it is anti-American sentiment abroad. They talked about how globally, in places like Europe, in places like Canada, people don't want to go into McDonald's because there's like an anti-American movement. Sure, I'm sure that exists, but largely it's just in-store sales here domestically. So the Burger Giant reported U.S. same-store sales fell 3.6%, the largest 3-month drop since Q2 of 2020. So lockdown. When they plunged 8.7. So this is about halfway to the road to Damascus here, because they're down about halfway to where they were during COVID. That is a major decline. Now, where this gets kind of interesting is lower income consumers. Now, this is where the data, I don't know how much I trust. I'll give the benefit of the doubt to the article, saying that they probably vetted these sources and figured it out. But I don't know how you figure out what's a high income traffic customer versus a low income traffic customer. The story is arguing that in higher income families and individuals, sales have not dropped, but lower income households have reduced the amount that they go to McDonald's. They're eating more at home. They're eating out less. That is somewhat bolstered by some of the sales we've seen from Chipotle, Domino's, Pizza Hut, Shake Shack, and Starbucks. They all reported similar trends. My only real gripe with it is I trust the fact that there's sales declines. My only gripe with the article is, how do you actually determine who is a rich person that comes into McDonald's versus who is a poor person? If you're ordering off the dollar menu, we're all equal here. So I'm a little confused and perplexed by that, but I can believe the argument here that because of contraction in the market, because we are seeing a slowdown in overall everything, that's weighing more heavily on the lower classes, lower middle income and lower income classes than it is on upper middle income and upper classes. So that is a completely believable argument. A little bit of a prognosis of what is to come. Now, on a daily basis, I do want to mention this. On a daily basis, I kind of seem to be reporting back and forth. Oh, the economy's doing good. The economy's doing bad. The economy's doing good. The economy's doing bad. And I don't want to preface and make it sound like I'm flip flopping. I still haven't made up my mind because early into the start of the year, I was seeing signs of recession, and I was mentioning that on the channel, and that was before tariffs even hit. There was already weakness in the market well into January, uh, but then the tariffs hit, and we got major economic movement. But through the fog of tariffs, I'm still seeing some indicators that would make me eat my own words and say, wait, maybe we're not facing a recession. The market being more stable than it appears. Freight travel still being pretty stable. Many restaurants actually doing much better than traditional fast food. For example, the company that owns Chili's, Brinker, they had a fantastic quarter. In fact, one of the best. They keep growing. You've got the lack of growth lack of decline in housing. So housing is continuing to maintain its strength. It is, even though, yes, overall mortgages and sales are down, you're not getting any drops in prices. So across the board, I think there's enough here that it makes me second guess myself of if recession is still coming. So that's why I kind of tend to flip flop from day to day. I think there's arguments to be made on both sides, and I think it's very undeterminable. Now, in the meantime, am I still playing the market? Yes, I'm still buying every dip, and I'm still selling every peak. I came back into a bunch of stocks most recently. I told you I sold them all. I'm still in Bath and Body Works, and I actually bought Brinker, the company that owns Chili's, because I see real promise and growth in that company, and I'm currently playing the trade. And in my long-term prospects, I recommend buying gold. That's what I'm going to be doing. It's a fantastic investment, and I think it's going to yield massive results. Now, gold is currently down a little bit as the markets have recovered in the last couple of days. However, I don't think it matters. If you're buying gold at 3,300 a share or 3,200 a share, it's not going to matter in 5 years if gold is at 5,000, which is the argument I'm making. I firmly believe that gold is going to be at $5,000 an ounce within the next 5 years. But within the next 2 quarters, within the next year, I'm still not sure. I'm still trying to parse through the numbers and through the data and the talk on the street to figure out what's actually going to be happening with the economy here at large. So that's pretty much it. Those are the stories of the day. It's Friday. No, it's Thursday, but it's might as well be Friday because it's the last video of the week. I hope you guys have a productive, awesome Friday, and I'll see you guys back here Monday.